And welcome to a special edition 4 to 5 podcast. That's 4DFI, exploring the latest trends and technologies reshaping finance. I'm Zack Miller, Tearsheet's editor in chief. And today we're unpacking the rise of AI agents and their potential to transform how consumers interact with financial services. I'm joined by my partners, Russell Weiss, an AI expert and startup builder, and Josh Liggett, a seasoned fintech investor. And together we're going to bring a multidimensional view to this complex space. And we'll dive into real world examples like Capital One's Chat Concierge, which has driven a 55% boost in customer engagement by automating the tasks around thousands of auto dealer sites. And looking ahead, we'll consider the implications for traditional banks. Will they invest billions in proprietary AI models, or will they cede ground to big tech and infrastructure players increasingly embedding financial services? And it's clear we don't have all the answers, but we do want to open up with good questions and get our thinking juiced around all this stuff. We'll also explore how the evolution of AI agents could intersect with Web3, crypto, and some asset tokenization models to enable digital transactions. Russell and Josh will weigh in which players are poised to thrive in this new era of AI-powered finance. So there's a lot to cover. Let's just jump right in. Hey, guys, welcome back. Well, I'll start with you, Russell. Since you're the builder here of the three of us, you wear the builder hat. Talk about like where we are internally within banks, within product, within tech. What kind of platforms have we been building to address the very quick changes in AI?
This is the ultimate revenge of the nerds moment. This is the moment all of us nerds have been waiting for. And in my career, I've never had so much fun. So this is really awesome for guys like me that are working in data for a long time. It's a very, very exciting time. There's problems that I was working on 2 or 3 years ago that it was very difficult to solve. As an example, document analysis. Document analysis is not easy. Data nerds have been working on that for decades. You've heard about techniques like neural networks, things like that. And 2 or 3 years ago, to build a system that could accurately analyze a complex legal document was a complex task, and it wasn't really so clear. It wasn't clear if machines could do that well. It wasn't clear if people are better at that. For sure, anything that the machine did, you need to have the person check it. You fast forward to now, what we're seeing in the most advanced algorithms, and it's like painfully clear that the machines are better, and it's painfully clear that they're better at contract analysis. That's the type of work that I've worked on. But I've seen many other examples of where document analysis, humans get tired, humans make mistakes, humans they get confused, and now it's getting to the point where most organizations that I'm seeing, they're moving towards a strategy where machines lead the way, and occasionally you'll pull in humans to check that. So that's amazing.
Human in the loop model.
Human in the loop occasionally to just do some type of verification, but leading with strategy with the machine. So the world's changed a lot. That's just one example. If I had to compare it to something that I lived through, I remember back, it was probably in the early 90s, the Sears catalog. Everyone shopped with the Sears catalog. It was clear, like that was the best, and that was an innovation at the time. Wow, somebody thought to put lots of things you could shop for in one printed catalog. Now Sears is a bankrupt company. Everybody got to sadly see the bankruptcy recently, and why did that happen? Well, everyone knows, right? Everyone's shopping online and moving towards online stores, Amazons. So they completely destroyed the world of Sears catalog. So now the question is, what's going to be destroyed now? And it's going to happen a lot faster. The technology is moving a lot quicker, and there's a lot of investment happening in these areas. So that's a big question that I think we need to talk about as a group, and that the audience should be thinking about.
Right. I think things have moved so quickly that it's not AI. Just over the past few months, particularly in Tearsheet's coverage, we focus very much on how AI is impacting inter-organization, like how is impacting, loan evaluation, as you said, document review, that kind of stuff. And now what we're talking about, what I'd like to get into this conversation is start there, but also look forward and how the introduction of agentic AI actually addresses the changing value of what a bank is and the services that a bank provides. Right? I know, Josh, you and I were talking about this the other day. Uh, where do you see agentic AI touching the industry?
I think, first of all, I just remember that this is something you and I spoke about, that Googling used to be like a skill. It was a skill that, oh, I'm a power Googler. I know how to do it. I know how to come up with the keywords. Like, I don't know the last time I used Google. Maybe I use it just to look and see what Gemini's response was immediately. But like, to go through like the full Google process that I used to, I just use a AI agent now because that's so much easier. And what's happening is that the UI UX and sort of where customers start and where a person starts with whatever their journey is, whether it's starting a diet, whether it's starting looking for research, whatever it may be, is now, as opposed to starting with Google or going directly to that source, it's starting with OpenAI or Gemini or Grok or Claude, whatever it is. That's just where the initial jumping off point is. So that bodes the question is that going to change that with everything in financial services? Is the start of what bank to choose, what financial services products to choose, what, to buy a car, buy a house, get a mortgage, buy stocks, whatever it is that process going to start with an AI agent experience as opposed to the traditional fancy front end that a bank has poured billions into or millions into and thousands and thousands of man hours into figuring out what it is? That's something that I think is it's up in the air right now.
I think for I'd say 10 years at least, we've been talking about where are the super apps in the US, right? Like Asia has these apps where you not only talk to your family, but you send money over, you can make investments, you can buy insurance there. And it's clear to me that the agentic, not even agentic AI, just generative AI, like the Claudes of this world, the chat GPTs, those become the super apps because at a certain point, I plug my wallet in there, I plug my crypto in there or whatever, and that is making decisions for me. I'm traveling Money 2020 next week. My first place that I went to, I used to go to Google and start there and Google Flights, but I went to my chat agent and asked it to find flights for me, and it's continuing to monitor the flights for me to find pricing and whatever. And it's like, and we're just at the nascent stage here. Like Claude doesn't even allow you to buy tickets yet. I think ChatGPT does, but I just, like Josh, like you were saying, like as a usability point of view, I don't know. I was reading some data points that like most web traffic is down 20-30% just this year over year alone. And so like if the starting point is ChatGPT, as a bank, I have to be wondering, where's my future customer going to come from?
There was a paradigm in banks where they were advertising and celebrating, hey, you could get a loan in 40 clicks. You can open a bank account in 30 clicks. And the users are changing. They don't want to click anymore. Clicking's a robot job. And they don't want to do that. It's not a natural human experience. And now that they've started to experience being able to interact with computer in a more natural way and not having to click a lot of buttons, that standard is not going to work anymore. And already in Latin America, I'm seeing a lot of this, that users are switching over to more experiences that are fully chat enabled, and they can do a full end-to-end experience via chat without having to click a lot of buttons.
There are some counterpoints to this. I remember, if you guys remember, Klarna announced like once ChatGPT blew up, they were going to fire a lot of people, and they did fire a lot of service people. Then they rehired them afterwards. I think they let go of 700 people, and then hired them back. This goes to what you were saying before, Russ, about sort of having a human in the loop. Sometimes there are certain experiences where it helps, I guess, to have a human voice or something that feels human. How far do we go? Like, do we imagine banking like a few years from now where it's like it's just agent to agent, like doing work all the time, and like we don't actually interact with anybody? Like, where does advice come from? Where does, like are we headed in that direction? Because I remember like reading a Mad magazine, I think, like in the late 80s or something like that. And there was some story that had to do with like agent versus agent dealing with stuff like this. And I was like, I feel like we're getting there. Well, one example.
I definitely think so. I think
please, yeah.
the shopping experience is more pleasant via the agent, and to be the store is better served as an agent. So it really does look like agent to agent.
the one thing I'll say is that, I mean, we're very early. Let's just be like, for this side, we're still incredibly early. Like, I joke around that ChatGPT and all these, you know, Gen AI or AI agents still have a tendency to be your, like, overconfident friend from college who thinks they know the
Cheerleader.
answer to
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember, going back, I remember when we were looking at mobile payments, like payments from your phone via mobile commerce, not buying something on Amazon from your phone, but going into a store and using, at the point of sale, using your phone as your credit card. I remember somebody said that he lived in New York and he had to walk like 5 blocks to the gym, and he said, until the day that I can walk to the gym with the confidence that somewhere along the way I'll be able to buy a bottle of water with my phone and not a credit card, then user experience will start, UI, UX, and consumer behavior will start to change. And it took a bit for it to get there, and then it got there, and now everyone's using their phones and everything. The metaphor I use, and not to be too crazy, is the faith that I would have to buy a car using an agent, where I'd say I need a red Toyota to get to Louisiana, that a blue Mercedes goes to Chicago because of, you know, the AI agent not being 100%. Like, there has to be, we still have to get to the level of where, especially with financial services, which is much different than asking for a diet question or even like plane tickets. We're still a ways away from there. But the question is, until the market gets comfortable with making big purchases like that. But the question is to get there. And I think, Zach, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, from your thoughts on the industry, is, have you seen any movement from banks or financial institutions in terms of how they're approaching agentic AI or this different UI UX?
Yeah, we've seen a variety of different approaches, and I think the bigger banks will probably try all the approaches. Where I think banks with fewer resources, or maybe more niche value, should probably pursue one way. But like, for example, I was speaking to the NVIDIA guys last week, and they were telling me about one of their clients, which is Capital One, has something called the Chat Concierge. That was launched at the beginning of 2025. It's a multi-agentic AI. That means there's not just one agent, but there are multiple agents running, performing different tasks. And they've connected with like 12,500 dealer sites. So Capital One customers can schedule test drives, compare vehicles, arrange financing. And it in a way, if you think about it, it may not sound so transformative, but it really is, because it means I'm not going to the dealer first. I'm actually starting with my bank. I'm starting with like the value that the bank's providing me. Let me see how much I can get in terms of the loan I can get. Let me do some research. And then my bank is the one setting up test drives with me. And at a certain point, I think the bank will probably be the one that ends up buying the car for me at the end of the day. So like, I don't even have to set foot in the dealer's site. It changes the whole thing, because now all of a sudden my bank is not just like a holder of where my money sits, and with some a little advice layer on top. Like, they're actually doing stuff for me that's additive for me in my life. That saves me hours and frustration and stress. Like, to me, that's really interesting. And one of the things that the NVIDIA rep said was, most of the big banks, maybe all the big banks that he's spoken to that they work with, are building their own niche LLM models. Like, they're building their own ones. They're not relying upon the public models. And that makes a lot of sense also, because, the bank, we've seen the value. And then I think this has been shown in every industry, that like, models that are built and learned on the industry itself, with all the nuances there that you don't really understand unless you go really, really deep into it, and have all the customer data also to back that up. Like, those are much more valuable when you can do that. So, I think you'll see, like, I think JP Morgan has its own LLM. They do spend billions of dollars on technology every year. They got 60,000 plus technologists. And I know that they're building their own LLM. They also have their own stablecoin as well. But so it's interesting. So like, maybe we can start at this point, since we've introduced kind of the issues at hand, like where we think banks will go. What are the options banks have at this point? Because I think we're three sanguine, open people who understand that the industry is evolving. We try to take like a non-cheerleader approach, a non hype approach. And I think what's happening here is, like Josh, you were saying, like, this has happened already. Like, the horse has left the stable, whatever analogy you want to use. Like, the Sears catalog is gone, and now we're talking about obviously using agents to live our financial lives. Where does that leave a bank? What's the role of a bank in a model like that? Josh, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think there's three options. And Zach, this is something you and I were talking about. I mean, there's obviously a million more, but there's three that come to our head immediately. And the first one, which is something you alluded to already, which is banks just develop their own LLMs, or they partner with an AI company, whatever it may be, and they build, and banks become, at least for financial services, become the place that you go. If I want whatever it is I want to do, I want to buy a stock, I want to buy a car, I want a mortgage, that you just go to your bank, it's all done for you. It's sort of like, you can call it almost like the American Express Black Card experience, like that really high level personalized experience that normally you'd have to spend a couple $100,000 a month or a year or whatever it may be, or pay a ton of money for, and that's just happening automatically. That's one. I think
And
the
you go to
second
your
one,
bank to access that, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So the second one, which is something that, I mean, Zach, you and I have been talking about Banks as brands since, I don't know, 2017, something like that. Is this going to, so we spoke about it before, that challenger banks were coming out with their, first you had like the regular challenger banks that were just trying to be a challenger bank. And then the second generation were trying to do community bank at scale, like a challenger bank for musicians, for dog walkers, for name your pick. There's a challenger
Barbers.
bank for you, whatever it may be, because you like the same charity, because it was the idea of a community bank, of trying to be a community and connecting it. Well, that didn't really succeed.
Nope.
There was a lot of money thrown at that, and nothing really stayed from that. But now what you can have is what if sort of not even the challenger banks, but the embedded finance, like AI companies say, hey, we can build a really awesome UI UX. And UI UX is, I'm putting in quotation marks for those who aren't watching. It's a very different term than what it was. And I think, Russell, you can talk about what UI UX means in a Gen AI experience. Like, there has the UI UX that from a is just better than what a bank can provide. And they can then, while you're doing your whatever it is, researching for a diet, you can also buy a car through that side channel. And then the banks become the pipes, which is something we've spoken about for a long time. The banks become the pipes, and they're the ones that feed in that information, even to the extent of becoming a marketplace, which is sort of like the third, a second version of becoming pipes, is an agent goes and Zach, I think your words were sort of SEO optimization for AI. I think that was sort of
Yeah.
the term
There's
that
already
you
a
came
field
up.
like this already. Yeah. So if you're using a generic AI tool, certain banks may get very good at being the end decision product that the AI lands on, right? And so that's one that I could be the last decision. I don't need to own the customer up until that point. But I'm really good at delivering the final product because it fits. And I've explained it really well to the AI, and the AI for some reason has chosen me versus all the other options out there.
And that's something that I would say, not to point at a specific company, but something like of what Amazon has been able to do from a shopping experience, where it's a, Amazon is doing their own products out there, which you don't really know. Sometimes they make it aware, sometimes you don't. But Amazon's done a great job of basically creating a great experience for users, where you want to be on that platform and feeding your information in there, so and your products in there. And then Amazon has turned into basically a logistics company, other than their web services. But from the Amazon traditional businesses, how can I get a box of books from point A to point B as cheap as possible within 5 hours or 2 days or whatever the customer wants? That could be the same thing as a loan. That could be the same thing as a car. That could be the same thing as a piece of art, whatever it may be. It's figuring out, and certain companies might have a better way of doing it than others. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that all like plays out, with banks deciding, do they want to be the front end, or do they want to be the pipes?
So Russell, maybe hopefully that's a good question for you. Maybe you could talk about how you see maybe some of the ways UX changes, like how people interact with financial services in a world
But
like this.
I think overall, just in the general question about where banks fit in, the asset that the banks have is people trust them,
Trust.
and they can really be the guardrails in this new economy that's emerging. When in when someone wants to buy a car, that's Okay, that's and they can have the best agent in the world, and it does all the negotiations for them, and it comes back with the price. But at the last piece where they have to push a button, if that agent is supported by their bank or a regulated banking entity, that just creates a lot more trust.
Yeah,
It means a lot, and I think banks are starting to recognizing that they're aggressively pursuing these types of partnerships, but fintechs are also doing the same thing, and so I think we're going to continue to see a world where banks have a very prominent role, and they will continue to invest in their brands and continue to build trust around those brands, and through partnerships, be able to be those, the shopping experiences of the future. The whole thing could change, however, if you want to really get creative and think about how stablecoins could get involved, and then the whole then you could really get very imaginative about what that world could look like. But I think, at least like Josh mentioned earlier, we're in the early stages of this. So at least for the next few years, banks have a very big role, and there's a lot of things people still need. People still need card readers. People still eat out at restaurants. There's still core things that the
people
banks
still
have
write
a
checks.
key role. People still, yeah, people do still write checks. So there's still need for those items also. But forward-looking banks have to recognize that obviously all those things are becoming less relevant, and what they do need to invest in is how do they either, like you mentioned, form their own agents or partner with companies in a very strategic way to leverage their brand.
How
I think
important do you guys think it is? Sorry, Josh, you want to go first?
no, I was going to talk about something that
Please
Russell
go
said,
ahead.
yeah, which is thinking about like the baby boomer generation and like people my dad's age who are in their 70s. Like it my dad got upset when he recently flew to America and there was nobody like flew through like and there was nobody at the gate or no one at the terminal to help him check in. Like he was like, what do you like out of his mind that like what do you thought that what do you mean I have to go on a website to pick my seat or scan a QR code to pick my to pick, and I'm asking that person to buy a car
Yeah,
on
that's not going to happen. Yeah.
like that's like that. So like it's going to be for the newer generations, but there's a large portion of individuals with a lot of money, like that everyone's been talking about for many years, that is just that will I don't think it would ever come to a point of trusting like an AI agent, even if it was a bank. Like the only shot they would have would be a bank, and then I could come up with some hilarious moments of like them having a video call with somebody, then realizing that person is not a real person, but it's a Gen AI image, and then losing all faith in humanity, which has happened to when I showed my dad that video of Javier Malay's speech at the World Economic Forum where they dubbed him into English on the spot and changed his mouth, and he like, what do you mean? Like he didn't speak English? So I think like that point of trust that Russell was speaking about, which is so important. I think we have to understand that this is going to be generational. Like certain generations are just the trust is not going to be there. There's going to be over time there is going to be more trust as people grow up with it and become more comfortable with it. But even like I don't trust Gen AI 100% myself already. Like so there's a point whereas my kids when they get to that point or of trying to buy a house or a car or whatever it is might have a totally different perspective. So we still have to it's just hard for like from the VC side of things to get very excited about hyping new ideas. You have to like that market behavior. I think is so important to understand how long it's going to take.
So where do you think we are? Like, obviously, I think when we talk to banks, they talk about designing products for 3 generations right now, or basically saying we create one product and we have enough variability in the product or personalization in the product that it can appeal to three different generations. How far do you guys think we are? Like, where are we in this timeline? What should banks be doing now? Should they be running out and hiring all the top AI scientists they can? I don't know. Like you said, Josh, your dad's probably never, he should live to be 120. He's never going to use something like this. So it's like, you can have a very nice business without ever actually fully tackling AI. I don't know what the next generation would look like, but I don't know. Can you sit by and watch it happen and wait to pick your spots? Or are we talking about like, this is something that's happening so fast and unfolding in front of us? I hate to say it because like if you guys remember Y2K and all that, like it really was like the doom clock, was coming and planes were going to fall out of the sky and the whole world was going to end. And at the end of the day, McKinsey and Accenture sold a lot of consulting projects. So it's like, how do we separate the sizzle from the steak? And like, what do we do with that here? The $1 trillion question.
I think there's awesome ROI on investments in AI. So it's hard to say you shouldn't do it because the ROI, either it's cost savings, it's opening up to new markets, it's gaining market share. So I don't think you're seeing companies that made that investment and said, hey, that was a big mistake. There are companies maybe that went too fast and did this transition, but that can happen in any type of transition. It's not about the technology. It means that they weren't managing internal transitions properly. But a company that knows how to do transitions in a healthy way and makes this investment, I think they're very well positioned.
I think to your point, Zach, like you mentioned that like SEO is down not SEO, sorry, like website traffic is down like 20-30%. I saw somewhere like I saw people posting like just hits of who's going onto their websites, and it's just like all these Gen AI and agents are just number one. Like that's
bots
like,
themselves have replaced people on the websites.
So that's happened. That's now whether or not 100% of the customer, the world is doing it or not is one thing or another. But that has happened. So if you, especially with banks and financial institutions, where we talk about it over and over and over again, and there's been a lot of money spent on how do you upstream and become the first bank that that you sign up for, because that bank, there's a very low probability that you will ever leave that bank. There's just something about it that's like, it's similar to sports, where the sports team that you grew up with, you're not going to leave it. There's something about that. And if you don't have a product that for the 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds, the college graduates, or the people not graduating college, the people entering the workforce in the next 5 years, that doesn't cater to their desires and needs, you're gonna get left in the dark very easily. So there it has to be a balanced approach of, I need to maintain I need to be willing, sort of like almost like a skunkworks project of what we've seen with many startups do, where you have your main business and your business continues, and inside that organization you try to build something that totally disrupts the rest of the business. I think that would be the way to go, and see which one, and you can offer both at the same time and see over time. I imagine there'd be one will phase out at a certain point. There probably still will be that private banker will still have a role at a certain point. It will probably not be all 100% AI. Maybe not, maybe past our lifetimes, but it's hard to imagine that in the near future. But that's like the best course of action is not to go, which is very financial servicey, is not to get too crazy. But at the same time, a non-financial service idea, this is happening and you better pay attention to it right now, because this isn't hype. There is a lot of smoke and there is a lot of fire. It is happening, at least on that side of things.
I just find it so cosmically ironic because, like, if you talk about the David and Goliath story over the past few years, which we didn't really get pulled into at Tearsheet, which was banks versus fintechs. If I were a bank, I'm as concerned with the AI platforms as I am with fintechs at this point. So the whole world is changing, and so, like you said, there is a lot of smoke and a lot of fire. Gentlemen,
that's a good just to finish on that point, that's a very good paradigm, because what did we see in the end, at the end of those wars between fintechs and banks, is actually partnerships emerged. And some of those partnerships were what made it successful. And I think it will be something very similar here.
Each one brings what they do best, and you need both parties. Banks bring the trust, and the other platforms bring technology and experience. Yeah. Before we sign off, I do want to, first of all, thank you guys. It's always great to talk to you, but I also want to say, Fortify, if you go to tearsheet.co/4DFI, which is our investment platform, we have a free distribution list there if you want to sign up. We're going to be having more of these types of conversations. We're going to be investing in the space. We've got a great group of bankers and fintech and professional services people who are already signed up for this. Join us, and we're going to do this together. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Exactly.
everybody.